there's really no excuse for anyone who's watching this right now not to wear local brands, because the quality is right up there, the price is right up. I know that a lot of people complain about the pricing, to say why are they supposed to be, or be pitched at a particular price point. But when it's international brands, you don't ask, you just buy. If it's a Roberto Cavalli, you just go and spend. But if it's a Tempo, you want Tempo to justify.
He's got an MCom in Business Management from the University of Johannesburg, where he submitted his impressive and insightful master's research titled Use of Social Media Big Data by South African Retailers to Support Marketing Decisions. He's a digital entrepreneur and he is an empowerment, I don't want to call him an activist, but somebody who really believes in empowering young people. He's passionate about brands, especially South African brands, because every time when I meet up with him, we always make fun of the fact that we're both wearing local brands all the time, including today.
Absolutely.
Today I'm wearing Relevance. Today I'm wearing
Tempo. This is Tempo. This is Patron.
Sure.
This is Skinny Smooth.
Oh, Skinny Smooth. This is Vips. Vips from Woodbank.
Yeah.
Sending you guys love, and it's always great to see you wearing local. Proud of you.
Thank you. And this is my, obviously, company, the Rato Agency. So, yeah.
Okay, give Farouk up.
It's my sister, actually.
Oh, it's your sister?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Rato is my sister.
Why your sister? Because most people, it's like either mother, their daughter, son, or wife.
I mentioned that one and only sister, and I love her so much. And it just makes sense, to name the agency after her. And it was before, obviously, I had my daughter. So, yeah.
Yeah. And congratulations on the little one.
Thank you so much.
How old is she now?
She's 1.
Okay.
She's 1. She turned 1 on Monday, so yeah.
And only please live for COVID, ne?
It's
a COVID baby, right?
No.
No,
last year COVID was done.
No, but if another one in now October, end of October 2023.
Mid-October, yeah.
It means also October 2022. It means it's 9 months before then, which is big. Oh, okay. It was just after COVID, ne?
Just after COVID.
And how are those sleepless nights? The crying at night?
Yeah, I mean, it has changed a lot of things, before then, I'd just wake up at 5, go to gym, go run, and now things have changed.
But it's beautiful. Is that your first?
Yeah, first.
Is it a she or a he?
It's a she.
Oh, it's a she.
Tlalefo.
Oh, Tlalefo. Wow. Wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has wisdom coming into this life changed your life?
Obviously, I always said to my team before I had her, they were like my priority, or the first sort of taste of responsibility. When you employ people, you're responsible for the salary at the end of the month, so you can't be reckless with the funds of the business, And now being a dad, it also, even on the personal front, I have to be taking a lot of responsibility in terms of the decisions that I make, the actions, I think I can't just be doing, stuff because in the long run, it may have an impact on her. So I'm very cautious in terms of the things that I do and engage in. But also at the same time, I'm fortunate that at least when I was a lot younger, especially in my 20s, because now I'm like 32, I made the right decisions in terms of just building a name for myself, in terms of taking a risk, leaving my job without lifetime's worth of savings rather, and just, grafting and building a name for myself.
And congratulations, man. They always say a lot about us with our daughters.
Yeah.
Father and daughter relationship.
No, of course. Who else? Yeah. But also, I've never, felt so much love for a human being. It's not that I don't love her mother, but it's different.
Yeah, it's different. I totally agree, and it's unconditional.
Absolutely.
Do you want more kids?
Not now, though.
not now, serious?
No, maybe in the next 3-4 years.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so now we have to work, man. Secure a future for this one.
Some people say wait for the child to get older so they decide what they want to do with their lives. But there's other parents who are like, no, we are intentional about this is what we want our children to do. We want them involved in the business, or we want them to become musicians too, if maybe their parents are musicians, or they're intentional.
Yeah.
What do you want your daughter to become?
Anything she wants to be.
Okay.
Honestly, if she wants to work for the business at that time, when the time comes, she's more than welcome to. But if she wants to be a medical doctor, she's more than welcome. But what I do want is for her to have options more than anything, not to be forced in a job or in an industry that she doesn't like because she has bills to pay, But at the same time, she needs to understand the importance of hard work, that not everything will fall on your lap or comes on a silver platter. So I just want her to have options. If she says, look, I want to do philanthropic work, hopefully at the time the business will be at a level whereby, there's funds for her to do that. She's more than welcome to do that. But I won't be prescriptive in terms of what she can be and what she cannot be.
I see Lorato Agency, and I know you through Patron brands and your passion for local brands, and just in building brands, especially in this digital landscape that we're in. Let's first start with Patron brands and how it started. And what is Patron brands for those who are not exposed to that name and the relationship thereof with your current new agency, Lorato?
So it's actually Lerato.
It's Lerato.
The E is meant to be, this heart is meant to be an E, but obviously because it's closed, people think it's an O. But Lorato means the same thing. It's all love. So Patron Brands started in 2016. I was doing the first year of my master's at UJ. And it was just a passion project, at the time. I'm not sure if you remember Jeremy Mags on Media. So I was watching a lot of his content. And I thought to myself, if there can be a Mags on Media, there can be a Patron Brands. And what Patron Brands would do would give pats and slaps on brands, right? And how I did it, unlike Jeremy, who was on TV at the time, I just started a blog. When blogging was a thing, patronbrands.com, I started blogging and just giving my opinion about what brands are doing right and what they're doing wrong. And over the years, the platform has evolved, has given birth to what we now call the Patron Brands dialogues, whereby I bring in captains of industry under one roof with emerging marketers or young marketing professionals, as well as entrepreneurs, to exchange ideas and obviously networking. As you know, at the time when I was still at UJ, I didn't have the network that I have in terms of industry leaders. And knowing what I know now, if I could do things differently, I would have emphasized or spent a lot of time establishing meaningful relationships with key people, because that's what any industry requires. That's why when I meet young people and they say they want to be in the industry, and I'm like, do you know Tebe Kalafing? Do you know Kenzi Nobanda? Do you know Sidney Mbele? And they look at me in like, Sylvester Chauke. They look at me with like blank face, and yet they say they want to be the best in the industry. How are you going to become the best in the industry when you don't know the current leaders? Because those are the people that if you get a cosign from them, your career can just sort of shoot up, So any industry has its own key players. And I'm creating a platform that young people can know these people, can engage with them, can rub minds and exchange ideas. And of course, maybe ultimately, them getting opportunities, for their businesses or for their careers. If they want a job and they want to work for a big bank or they want to work for a big agency, they can have that particular platform. So I started Patron Brands for that, the dialogues for that specific purpose. And in 2021, during lockdown, as you know, media around June makes a lot of noise about young people that are doing great things or that are who are trailblazing. And I thought to myself, let me take a different angle. And I wrote an article about the top 16 youth-owned brands. And at the time, the focus of the article or the idea was to have a list of 16 brands that are run by young people, right? And the feedback I got from the people that were listed on that article, was that, we have no idea what this has done for us as a brand. We're able to use it to use the recognition as part of us motivating to get listed on some big retailers, on some big e-commerce platforms. And for me, I was like, damn, how do I do this at a scale?
And I actually remember that. I think you did, top 16 brands, right?
Yes, top 16 brands.
And it wasn't just strictly local brands. It was just young people who are running 16 top brands.
Yeah, but it was South African youth.
Oh, South Africa. No, I'm talking about the brands. Didn't matter.
No, the brands, it mattered. It was young people of South Africa, like, for example, the Tepos, at the time, even, I think, obviously, the Patrons, and there were some other brands that were doing some incredible things. Then I thought to myself, how do I do this at scale? And I remember in December of 2021, I had a chat with Tebe Kalafeng, and I was just like, how do I scale, this idea and make it a big thing? And he just looked at me and said, I don't know. That's going to be your biggest project for 2022. I was like, so much for consulting and asking for guidance. But he was
that was a dope answer. That was your guidance. Yeah, that was your guidance.
Absolutely. I guess that was, then I went.
Mr. Ikalafeng can never waste your time. That on its own, I think he was giving you he was sending you in a certain direction.
Absolutely. And he was like, that's going to be your biggest project for 2022. And of course, indeed it was. Then we launched the inaugural Top 16 Youth-Owned Brands Awards.
Okay.
Then, the awards, were attended by over 600 plus people. We got about 400 and something nominations. It was very, well received by the young people, and they were excited around it. Then this year, in 2023, we had another one, and we scaled it up. We started at a small hotel in Sandton called the Capital. Then we moved the whole thing to Sandton Convention Center. And it was preceded by a 2-day festival of youth-owned brands, where these brands were just, youth-owned brands. I'd say, if I did it to your style, I was going to have Guinness World Book of Records there, because we had the largest number of youth-owned brands in South Africa under one roof at the richest square mile in Africa. That is obviously in Sandton, And it was about 80 plus youth-owned brands showcasing. We had also obviously some of our partners and sponsors showcasing, and it was just a celebration of youth excellence in terms of brand building. Then of course we closed off with the awards show, it's what we're going to do obviously for many years to come. At some point when I'm no longer youth, there'll be other young people that will take on the baton and just carry on with the work. In terms of Lerato Agency, we launched it in July 2020, right in the thick of lockdown, right in the thick of a global pandemic. And at the time, it was just me, and in my little studio apartment. And I was like, damn, for many people, unfortunately, that period was one of their darkest times. But for me, it was a great window of opportunity, because at the time, I could launch an agency without a fancy office in Sandton. I would just log on Zoom and just pitch to whoever that I could pitch to at that particular time. And we were just fortunate that immediately after launching, I think a month down the line, we secured our first retainer client, and that allowed me to employ a couple of people. And since then, we've been growing, we've been creating employment opportunities for other young people. And of course, all the work that you see with regards to the Top 16 Youth-Owned Brands Awards is the Lerato Agency's work, because it's my agency that's doing all the work. Also, we're very intentional in terms of also our service providers for the awards. We hire young people in terms of doing videography, photography, the ushers, even the production company. If you look at our stage, is of high caliber, and that's a youth-owned business that's providing that service. The only thing, and if we could, unfortunately, there's no convention center that's owned and run by a young person, but if there was, we were definitely gonna make use of that. So the trophy, we commissioned a young glass blower from Pretoria by the name of Khotsopati, who commissioned him to design and actually manufacture the trophy. So at every touch point, we incorporate young people to work on the brand.
What have you learned about local brands ever since you started Patron Brands? 7 years ago?
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm seeing is that obviously there is a massive growth of local brand, and the quality is just getting better by the years. I remember my first pair of jeans of Tepo jeans rather, and the ones that I have now, worlds apart. So and also I think it's an exciting time, for young brand builders. I think in 2017, I remember correctly, I know 2019, I remember having a conversation with a colleague of mine at the time, and we're just talking about how one day it would be so nice to wear from top to bottom, rocking local brands only. At that particular time, we had like limited options. What's happened? They were still starting out. They were still trying to figure out, in terms of the quality, just improving their brands. And today, there's many options. There's really no excuse for anyone who's watching this right now not to wear local brands, because the quality is right up there. The price is right up. I know that a lot of people complain about the pricing, to say why are they supposed to be, or be pitched at a particular price point. But when it's international brands, you don't ask, you just buy. If it's a Roberto Cavalli, you just go and spend. But if it's a Tepo, you want Tepo to justify. Actually, in 2019, I remember Sowetan publishing an article in which Tepo was explaining why his pair of jeans at that particular time were like 800 rands, 700 rands. Which, if you think about it, it's ridiculous. We don't ask why Levi is 1,500 rands. We don't ask why Louis Vuitton belt is 7K or 10K or whatever amount of thousands. But when it comes to local brands, we are very critical. We are very, I'd say, negative. There was another post that was making rounds on social media whereby someone was saying, I'm all for supporting local brands, but why is it that they must be made in China? I mean, the very iPhone that I'm using right now, it was assembled and made in China, designed in California. But do I question Apple, why are you making your product in China? Do I question Nike, why are you making your sneakers in Venezuela and not in America? So there's a lot of I think mindset shift that's required, that we need from the South Africans' perspective, just to say, look, these brands, they have to be competitive. I mean, I always say that someone asked the question like, does, for example, Patron have to make their stuff elsewhere in the world, but not in South Africa? And I'll be like, if Theo had to bring the manufacturing in South Africa, he would probably spend more time fighting and just, dealing with the politics of just manufacturing in South Africa and actually building the business and growing the brand, because the laws are stringent in this country. It's not efficient, to push manufacturing at the required level to be competitive. Number one, labor is also expensive, So there's a lot of dynamics that also, even from a government perspective or policy making perspective, things need to change and be more favorable for proudly South African brands. If you want them to bring the manufacturing here, similar to the automotive industry that is highly incentivized for being here and manufacturing their cars here, why are we not doing the same with the local brands? So that's the big question that I always have, But for now, let's just buy local. The only way that these guys can get to a point where they can even consider bringing the manufacturing here is if we buy and support, and they grow and they learn, and they become better at it. And yeah, that's just my perspective.
And I look at it and I say it's still early days, right?
Absolutely.
I look at the state of entrepreneurship in the country, just the local brands. We're in the early stages. We've got our predecessors, our Grootmans, our Timers, our old ladies, who've shown us that you can succeed in building black businesses.
Yeah.
But how many black businesses really became brands, or how many of them actually built brands? And now we're seeing a transition from the old school entrepreneurs into us having watched them for all these years, and we've learned so much from them that we're now creating these brands from scratch. And I kind of feel it's still the beginning. I think we sometimes become too harsh on ourselves, right? So there's nothing wrong also in, getting supplies from overseas and putting your own brand there and putting it out there in the beginning, right? As you're saying. Now, when I put on my first batu years ago to the quality of batu that I wear now, when I look at the first can of Mofire to the current can of Mofire, as you're talking about even Tepo as well, and any other thing, right? In the beginning, now it's one step at a time. As time goes, we grow and we do better.
Yeah, another thing is, I mean, that you went also in that direction of the generation before us, if you think about it, some of the work that I do on the side is I'm part of the analysis team in terms of the Brand Africa report that Tebe runs. What we see is that also, especially for the past 30 years or 29 years, we haven't seen a lot of strong South African brands coming up. If you look at the brands that show up in the Brand Africa report every year, are brands that were started during the apartheid times. So also what you see is that the previous generation, no hate for them, but with them, their business sort of acumen, most of them, it wasn't about building stuff from scratch. It was about, getting into BE deals, and just making acquisitions of existing strong brands, right? What you see now with this current generation is that, for example, with you, on a Mofire perspective, it could have been easy, for you if you took your money and you bought into an existing strong energy drink brand, right? But you took the other way in terms of just starting this thing from scratch and building it to where it is today. So the fundamental difference that we have with the previous generation and us is that the younger generation, I guess maybe it comes from also a need that we don't have the kinds of funds to go buy into an existing business. The only option we have is that we start where we are. We start selling those shoes from the back of, from the boot, from the back of your mom's yard, and you just, reiterate continuously. Improve. What I'd really like to see, especially for the generation before us, is some sort of investment into the new ideas, the new school sort of entrepreneurship, because at the end of the day, it is the Batus, the Tepos that are going to create opportunities for other young people. If you think about it, corporate, there's only so much of hiring they can do. Actually, most of them are considering cutting down on employing people. And if you're not experienced, the likelihood that you'll get in is also very much thin. I was speaking at UJ the other day, and I said to the kids, the students, let me not say kids, the students in that class, to say 90% of them are more likely to get their first job with a small Black-owned business than with a big corporate. And that small Black-owned business looks like this. The owner or the CEO or the founder of that particular business is probably the same age as your cousin Sipho, who's in the hood, who's unemployed, whom you have little regard or respect for. And now you're having this guy that looks exactly like him, probably sounds like him, and now this person is your boss. And there needs to be also a mindset shift, because what you're starting to see is that, obviously, I also employ people like those, is that how people relate to us versus how they relate to someone who's older or someone of a different race is different. They think our businesses, we just, trying things out. There's the level of seriousness, the respect for the opportunities that are being granted to them is not held at the same level as the, older generation or maybe people of other ethnicity.
And what is your advice to people who are, we started Mofire when, like 2012, started talking about it 2013, 2014. We started selling our first can 26th of January, 2015.
Yeah.
It's now in a few months, in a few weeks' time, it'll be exactly 10 years. We are now talking
Sure.
in 2023, 2024.
Yeah.
What advice do you give somebody like us back then when we started Mofire, who is starting their own brand right now?
I mean, there's never been a better time to start a brand right now because unlike Smooth, who risked his job and shouted "More fire," and in our show we've got social media. I think also the consumer is now more conscious in terms of where they're spending their hard-earned rents and who they're spending their hard-earned rents with. The appetite is there, for local brands.
Quality local brands,
Yes,
because that's what I see with the audience.
Yeah.
The customers.
The
People,
yeah.
they want to support local brands, but a lot of them are crying out for quality.
For quality.
Even now in the beginning, they were very harsh on us to be like, guys, improve the quality. Guys,
Yeah.
improve the quality.
Yeah.
And over the years, that's what we've done.
But also, yes, a little bit of empathy from a consumer perspective. It's easy to write off a Mofire because you know who's behind it. You taste it one like, this thing is, you put it on the side, never again. But when it comes to your bank, how many times has your bank deducted money, and you still forgave them? And you're still banking with them. You don't write them off. So, but to anyone starting right now, the internet is here and it's providing immense opportunities for collaboration. You can even now collaborate with people from outside of South Africa. You can, promote your brand in a very much in a very much cost-effective way, and also be creative. In this time, yes, the platform is there, but you're going to require some level of creativity to be able to push your brand. You can't buy your way in building a great brand, unfortunately. People need, to see that you're doing things differently, and that's how they can, warm up to your brand. But if you're just going to plug a logo, if you're just going to do the ordinary, create a poster, post it on social media, the likelihood that it will catch on is very much low than just being creative and taking to the streets. Let's not forget the streets, because that's where the people are. Even though online offers great opportunities for brand building, but you still need to do some groundwork.
Penuel asked me this question when we were talking about Mofire when Prime came through. He said to me, are you going to sell one day? Do we build these businesses or do we build these brands to sell them to the bigger guys? Or what do we do? Do we build these things to be like generational wealth type of businesses? Because I look at brands that have become such incredible brands. I remember we started out with Soweto Gold at some point.
Yes.
And congratulations to them. I think they've got a partnership with Heineken.
Yeah, Heineken
so I don't know if they sold to Heineken.
They sold to Heineken.
Completely?
It was acquired. It was an acquisition. I don't know the ownership percentage now, but it was an acquisition.
So what do we do? Do we build them to sell them, or do we build them for the next generations to come? Because that's what has happened all along. People, when you're at a certain point, they just want to buy you out. Yeah. And then we're still going back to that same cycle again where we're like, let's build our own brands, and when they become big enough, we get bought out.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and also I think it depends on the individual. And if you think about it, you start this brand when you're a lot younger, you're more energetic, you have less responsibilities, you don't have a child, you don't have grandchildren, and you can't be in your 50s, still be crafting, hustling, and having the energy. At some point, because acquisitions also comes with certain benefits, and I think it depends on who you sell it to, because obviously we do know that some of the people that make the acquisitions do it for sinister reasons, just to maybe squash the brand and off it goes. But then at the same time, if you think about even some of the brands that we know today, that the founders are still sort of involved. They don't own 100% of those businesses, because they come.
Adrian Gore doesn't even own 20% of Discovery. I doubt even 15%.
Absolutely.
I think he owns 9% or something.
I think it was 7 or somewhere there, but he doesn't own 100% of the business. There's certain, I guess, time, resources. Your resources can take you to a particular point, but to get to the next level, you need that investment, and that investment comes with, we want ownership. Remember, there's no such thing as free lunch. So you have to, sell a stake, but you have to sell it to the right partners, But I think ultimately, we need strong black-owned businesses that are going to be big and become globally competitive, you know.
And become a part of acquiring smaller businesses with the intention to help them grow.
Absolutely.
Because some people say, but then you guys are pushing a certain narrative, but your business big enough now, you're still selling back to Ingam.
Yeah.
And what do I do as an entrepreneur? I'm caught between a rock and a hard place, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that balance is very important. And I think perhaps also it helps not to be gullible when the deal comes and someone knocks on your door and say, I want to acquire more fire. You know, it needs to be on your terms, you know.
It's happened twice, by the way. We still have not sold yet. We don't know what the future looks like. I know some people will be mad at me, like, "Okay, buy some more fire."
Yeah, but if they know the stress that comes with, you know, maintaining and the amount of resources that it takes, you know, to, I mean, you know, in retail it's cutthroat, for example.
Yeah.
That shelf space is not easy to get, and people pay big bucks just to sit at eye level, you know, and that's where you want your brand as well. But I think the biggest thing is, you know, just finding the right partners and actually also being involved maybe in the background, you know. The other day, actually, in closing, I hosted a dialogue, you know. We're talking about heritage brands and what really makes heritage brands. And there was the lady, the CMO of at PepsiCo for snacks, Julia Yorondlovu, who's of Italian descent, and we're talking about, like, if you think about it, Italy rather has strong heritage brands. You know, over the years they've been, you know, the Ferraris, you know, all of those brands. And she said there's a common thread amongst them, is that all of them, in terms of ownership, in terms of involvement, the family still becomes part of it. If whoever buys it, they still maintain that there must be one of the family members that's involved in decision making, in running of the business, so that the brand doesn't lose its purpose on why it was started.
And
so
it's authenticity,
and,
right?
and it's authenticity, and that's where they win. So also with us, when we may finally get to that point where now, you know, you have to sell, maybe your daughter will be, you know, up for the challenge, you know, to take the reins and be like, the reason why More Fire was started, it was because of XYZ, and I'm here to make sure that it remains the same. Also, if you think about even a brand like, I mean, the founder died long ago, like Rolex, for example, which no one really knows who owns it, but there's a trust and there's still that, you know, involvement from the family side to say, look, it needs to be maintained. You know, the essence of the brand cannot be lost, and the only way to keep to protect that is that you also have people that have the best interest at heart, which in most parts will be your family.
I mean, as much as Mutak, and you know, I'm so pro-black, but I'm not anti anything, right? And I believe in collaboration over competition. So
absolutely,
if a conglomerate or a team of certain people are going to come and obviously on our terms and collaborate with us, but they're bringing value in this thing that we're building, and they're bringing resources, infrastructure, they're bringing things that are going to help this thing grow, as opposed to just throwing money at us, right?
Absolutely.
I'm open to working with anyone, Mina. Do you think this narrative that we're on in building our own brands as Abantu Abamnyama, do you think we should be strict to say any person that comes with money or any company that comes with money should strictly be black? What do you say there for entrepreneurs? Because others can say, yeah, you guys, but you are selling out.
No. It's not selling out. It's business, you know. And if you think about it, you said it earlier on that we're still early in this process. We're still early in business, and there's a lot of things that we do not know. You know, even for you, for example, when that deal comes, you know, if you don't have the right mentors, the right, you know, people who are knowledgeable to guide you in terms of what needs to be in the terms and conditions of that particular M&A, you know, it might flop, right? So the truth of the matter is that, for example, if you look at the white business people, they've been at it for the longest times. You know, we spoke about Adrian Gore, for example. You know, the business is 30 years old, but he had
24, yeah, I think 24 years old.
No, 30. I think it started in 19...
Discovery. Discovery, I think it's 24 years old.
No, it's
if
30
not 26.
Plus.
Just
Go
a
to the
little,
office
yeah,
and they're
almost 30 years. Okay.
Yeah, so they have a 30. I think last year they celebrated their 30th
is it?
Anniversary.
Okay.
You can Google it.
Okay.
Yeah, but with him as well. Like for example, when he started, he had the guys that started, I think, the First Rand group, that invested in him and in the idea. And if you think about it, with him, he's Jew, and the guys that were doing it, I think, were Afrikaans. It wasn't a matter of, oh, I'm Jew, I'm going to only take money from the Jewish.
Oh, you're correct. Actually, it's about 31 years old.
Yeah. So he didn't say, I'm only going to take money from my kind. Or
it's crazy that you're correct. I actually had a meeting at Discovery this morning.
Yeah.
One of their own top employees, said 24 years. That's why I'm on 24.
Oh,
and someone who doesn't work there actually has got the facts right. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, as you know, money has no color, At the end of the day, like you were saying, as long as they bring in value, For example, if you look at a brand like Tepo, whom I think the Brosens have an interest in the business, Look where Tepo before. It's not like he wasn't going to make it in any case by himself, but having had that kind of partnership with the Brosens, who owns the Nando's, or I think the son of Robbie Brosen has an interest in the business. So they're bringing in value. So now, should we, throw stones at Tepo, say Tepo is selling out, by partnering with people of other ethnicity to build this brand. If you look, for example, even the late, great Dr. Richard Maponya, from a Maponya Mall perspective, he had redefined properties, helping or structuring a deal and building that particular mall. You know what I mean? The truth of the matter is that white people still have the money. White people, have far more experience in business and at that scale, at a very much a larger scale. And the only thing, and I think even from the government, I'm of the view that we need to be more collaborating with them, because that's how we're going to learn. Because if we're going to rely on our own understanding, we might just end up in South Africa. If you look at, for example, how many brands that are black-owned have managed to establish themselves outside of South Africa versus, you spoke of Discovery. You know how big Discovery is in China. In Japan, they have partnerships. And elsewhere.
In the US as well.
And also
including Nando's. You spoke about Nando's.
Absolutely.
Nando's is in Washington, D.C. They're in the UK. They're all over the world.
Absolutely. So whom else to partner, who better to partner with if you want to go that direction? If you want, like Tepo, this week, is having a pop-up store in Amsterdam. You know what I mean? So we need that collaboration and just look beyond race, because usually obviously the politics, always go back to race. But now we're living in a different time. Yes, we have the education, we have the exposure, and right now it's our time to say, okay, cool. How do we best partner to build, the next Nando's? How do we build the next Discovery? One of the founders of Pineapple, for example, is a young black guy. That's a youth-founded business.
I had an opportunity to be a part of Pineapple.
Exactly. And
I slept on it.
Is it?
Slept on Pineapple, yeah. Just like Mr. Malcolm X, I introduced him to Theo Baloyi when Theo started and he needed some funding. Like a Malcolm X, you should have participated in Patu. Look at how big Patu is now. So sometimes opportunities come. Okay, anyway, finish off. Sorry.
Yeah. So and is now underwritten by, I think, Old Mutual. Underwrites a Pineapple Insurance, and it's a great partnership. Got a young black guy, young white guy, and just doing great things and building great brands. I think, there's a lot that we as a people we still need to learn, and we just need to embrace that. We just need to have a learning thing. If you look at where things are going, I know it's an unpopular opinion, and we always want to take things back to race, but at the end of the day, if we want to grow as a people, we need to collaborate with other people. There's no way we can build another Nando's by just saying, lay it to pen. Yes, Africa is the place to be, but also who else has built a great business outside of South Africa? then most of these businesses are white-owned. ShopRite, all of them, they're white-owned businesses, and they've established themselves very well elsewhere in the world. I think for us is if we can collaborate, we can embrace each other. Yes, we are not the same, but there's a lot of things that bind us together.
I totally agree with you, man. Collaboration over competition. Your love and passion for local brands inspires me, and I'm very proud of everything you've achieved.
Thanks.
I think obviously your biggest achievement, being a father, inspires me more even as well. I'm very proud of what you've done with your life and what you're continuing to do, and also uplifting other local brands. I think maybe just here towards the end of this episode, as I'm bigging you up, I would like for them to put up on the screen a picture of when we just met. I think it's almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10, actually, yeah. It was June, I think June 2014.
Yeah, but it's the same time.
Yeah, when we used to wait for you outside the SABC studios, in Auckland Park,
Yeah, that's why every time when I see all of you guys, because Nindwana Zam Nonke, and a lot of you guys who came to Joburg when you were still starting out, I've been blessed to have had the privilege of meeting you guys then when you were still starting out or finding yourselves.
Absolutely.
To now, a decade later or 15 years later, to see what you guys are becoming, what you've become. It makes me happy, especially I always say, Mina, Indwana Zinglandelayo. Or most years was slagantpil and most years was successful.
Yeah.
I've never steered anyone wrong, even with my own mistakes. I've always been transparent to you guys. So I'm not gonna say, hey, I inspired you, or hey, I was your role model. Yeah. But it just makes me happy as a bigger brother.
Speaking of role models, just obviously I know time is running out. I mean, even at home they knew when you're on Friends Like These, when you're on Why, I've always been a fan, I've always, admired your moves, and yeah, a lot of the things that I do today, somehow you had an influence in them. So also thank you for being that great example, great role model, for young people as a whole, and I think if you think about it, there isn't anything that you did half-heartedly, when you're on TV, you're rocking. When you were even actually this...
That was not me, I guess.
No. Even how I shave was inspired by you when you were still, that guy who was wearing suits, Chiscop and all of that. So yeah, a lot of it was inspired, and I think there's a lot of us that were inspired by Smuda, and I think we also need to give you your flowers,
I appreciate it, bro. And I actually wanted to say, Guti, for that, what makes me happy even more is that you are passing it on. Yeah. So paying it forward is the most important one, right? Absolutely. We can't just learn, just get all of this knowledge, just think about Abanyabantan and just pass on the knowledge, just do whatever you can do to uplift others. And you're doing that really well.
Thank you.
And for that, I applaud you, my brother, and congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, Buddha.
Last words over the Lisa Bantura.
Do follow Patron Brands, do follow the Lerato Agency, the Top 16 Ethiopian Brands Awards. If you're a young person that's watching this and you think you're doing an excellent job in building a brand, so that's one platform that you can also be a part of. Who knows, you can also be a Yoba winning brand.
Amazing entrepreneur, Pat Mahlangu, who's a brand specialist, very passionate about South African brands or local brands per se, is an entrepreneur himself, is now a new father, family man, very proud of him. We will see you guys on the next video. We hope today's episode inspired you to even do better in creating or building your own brand. And for those who are working for other brands, that's where it starts. Learn as much as you can so that one day you're ready to run your own brand. There's nothing wrong about being an employee, because that's where we all start. That's where we all started, for us to be able to be strong enough to stand on our own too. I'll see you guys on the next video. Danko!